name is Amanda Hedon Murphy, and I work here at the Museum of Contemporary Art Arlington, where I'm a curator and I work with the resident artists, of which the lovely Milan Warner is one. So tonight's artist talk is with Milan and Foon Sham, and I'll go ahead and introduce the both of them. The talk will run about 45 minutes, give or take, and then we'll have some questions. So you know the talk is being recorded live as we speak. So without further ado, I think I'll go ahead and read their bios. We'll start with Foon. Foon Sham holds a BFA from the California College of Arts and Crafts and an MFA from Virginia Commonwealth University. He is currently a professor of art at the University of Maryland, College Park. Sham has had 50 solo exhibitions in the Washington metropolitan region, including Gallery Neptune in Brown and the National Building Museum in Washington, D.C., as well as in New York, California, Ohio, Delaware, New Mexico, Canada, Norway, Mexico, Australia, and France. This is a very long bio. I'm going to give you the most condensed version of this I can. His work has also been featured in numerous group exhibitions, including the Architecture Biennale, Time, Space, and Existence in Venice, Italy, Sculpture by the Sea in Sydney, Australia, and at prestigious venues such as the Corcoran Gallery of Art, the Art Museum of the Americas in Washington, D.C., and the Virginia Museum of Fine Arts in Richmond, Virginia. Now, Foon's work in public art is in several notable collections. I will not list them here right now. He has also been the recipient of numerous awards. I also will not list all of them right now, but needless to say, he was most recently honored with the Outstanding Educator of the Year Award from the International Sculpture Center. And I think that you'll see that the relationship he has with his students comes to bear very much on the talk we're having tonight. Now, Milan Warner is a multimedia artist working in sculpture and installation, and I should add she's a resident artist here at MoCA Arlington, so her studio is upstairs. If you haven't seen her solo show, please do dedicate some time to go upstairs and see it. Raised in the Philippines, Warner holds a BA in studio art from the University of Maryland. In August of 2021, Warner completed her first public sculpture as an artist in residence at Franconia Sculpture Park in Schaefer, Minnesota. Recent group shows include Wish You Were Here at MoCA Arlington. Warner lives and works in the Washington, D.C. metro area. And with that, we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you both for being here, and thank you all for being here.
Right. Hello.
Well, thank you for coming.
Yes.
And thank you for the introduction, Amanda. Thank you for the introduction.
Yeah.
And I know some of you, so feel free to, engage in the conversation. Tonight's topic is about Milan's work. So, we will kind of have a conversation between you and me, and then feel free to, throw in questions if you feel like it. And especially with her work. Let's, present your slides so that in case people have not seen the work, just have a quick run through. And then we'll start with the piece that How I Met You.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Milan. So I'm just going to give you a quick walkthrough, a virtual walkthrough of the exhibition, okay? All right, so going up the steps over here, this is what you're going to be greeted with. The title of the show is Where Groats Sleep But Cannot Dream. I kind of chose that title because I like the weird ambiguity of it. So I kind of wanted to set up this feeling of being at a place that is sort of unknown, but familiar at the same time. And as you go into the gallery, you're greeted with the first piece, which here's the gallery. And the first piece is called Bohol, which is kind of inspired by my own experiences with having a lot of hair and dealing with that with my in my everyday life. And then across from that piece, actually in the center wall is going to be Shy Mold. So it's inspired by various growths that I see just throughout my life. In my home life and, outside as I, walk around and live as a human being. And then across is going to be Socket Colony. So fun. Pink little growths that are modular in their nature. I can take them apart, put them back together, and they'll take whatever form, I dictate them to. This entire exhibition is very modular and installation based, which is kind of like my first time playing around with that sort of work. Because as I expand my work, I find that I'm running out of space as a sculptor. So I need to figure out a way to make work that I'm able to break down, put in a tiny little box somewhere, and then, make more out of that. It's one of the trickiest parts, I think, I'm finding as I move forward. Then we have Soft Horde over here, very bodily. I am surrounded by, a lot of women throughout my life. And, our bodies are kind of my first, is the inspiration for this one. Then we have the masses. Sophia, again, very bodily. I'm just kind of like running through it, but we will go back and, talk more about each individual piece. We have this one, and then of course in the middle, flesh plant, in the middle of the gallery where you can kind of sit around, stay a while, maybe interact with the flesh plant if you wish. I won't pressure you, but loves pets, if you listen closely. And yeah, that's what's up with the gallery right now.
Yeah, let me respond to that. This is the space where upstairs, where her work is. It's where how you brought me here.
Yeah.
This is my first solo exhibition in 1988, 37 years ago. I had my first solo exhibition in the same space where she was up there in Arlington Center at that time. So this is a picture of the work, also in common. You might not have seen it in black, dark colors, and
Black and the browns.
That was gonna bring back some memories of me. So I'm gonna, let it pass around, whatever you like to take a look, and that's how we come, and this is also was the first resident artist in Arlington Art Center. As the first sculptor being, juried in, because most of the time at that time, you guys, Jason might know, most of the artists in the residency were painters. And is here, and I was the only sculptor or two sculptor. The other person who shared the studio with me was Mark Robart. Though we spare room to just to describe you about the studio. It was an elementary school. The sink was about this high.
Yeah.
Why? Because elementary school students, the sink is accustomed to their
They're
height,
tiny
so
people.
we have to bend down every time we need water. And we share a space about 600 square feet. We divide in half, so we share the machine as well as the sawdust. So that's how we bring back a lot of memory. Also, the memory of me being here and seeing you here was just it's excitement for me to see another artist coming through when I met you. Do you have a piece that we saw?
Yeah. So, okay. So this is Herbert, my guy. He lives in my studio right now. Sorry about the mic. He is one of the first sculptures I've ever made. And I had a great time making this thing. So I started with like a little wire armature, a steel armature welded together. It has a nice, wood base. Then I covered it with plaster cloth, clay, sculpted the eyes, covered him with pins. And at the end of the year at UMD, every year, all of the students would gather around and clean up the wood shop and the steel shop. So as I was painting, resetting and painting some of the tables that we use throughout the year, Foon comes up to me because this was sitting in the wood shop, and he is a wood guy, so that's his territory. So he pointed at Herbert. He was like, "Did you make that?" And I was like, "Yes." And he was like, "Cool." Cool. I was like, "Okay, strange man." In my head, I didn't say that. But and he was like, "Did you know that clay cracks?" I was like, "I do now." It was one of the struggles I had with this piece because it kept cracking. I couldn't understand why. But clay expands and it cracks, so you should build it based on that. And so he was like, "Take a class under me," and I was like, yeah, sure, cool. And that was the beginning of our relationship. So I did.
I'm so glad you mentioned the things I was about to tell you. Because I was before I knew her, she was in my class. I saw this piece in the studio. This really drew my attention. It's kind of really organic, strange, but not quite a creature. I don't know what it is, but they're saying the clay is cracking over. I can't stand it. Did somebody tell you how to do it right? Don't you know clay shrink? And then if you wrap around a solid, object, it cannot shrink. It will crack. So I was taught, and you were not taught. That's right. So I was getting little. The piece was nice, but don't let it ruin by itself. Right? So I was trying to say, who's that person? I've been searching for you for a while because you were not in my class until I really bumped into you in cleanup day, and then you rebrand me into yourself. Oh, okay. Then relate to a story myself when I was discovered in my art school. I was taking a class in California, right? So we were taught quite loosely as our teacher, the art program. The professor came and saying, here's the project, self-portrait, or whatever it is, see you in 3 weeks. That's it. Where's the instruction? See you in 3 weeks. Okay, then, you let loose, if you want to do something, need to question anything, knock in my office, make an appointment, see me. Okay, so I asked him, how do you, I want to do a piece, self-portrait, or a self-portrait with my bathroom because that's my favorite place, So I was casting a bathtub about this size with chicken wire, all that, right? I learned by myself. So I said, how do you make plaster? I asked the professor. He said, well, put your hands, put some plaster, put some water until it feel good, So I did that. It feel really good, but I never measure. You have to be equal portion of each, to get it right. Once you mix it wrong, some of you might have done artwork before, never set. So my sculpture in the studio like this one was sitting there, never cure, get wet all week. So another professor who was not in my class, Paul Harris, his name, came by and stopped by and said, hey, Fun, do you know how to make plaster? I said, well, I was told to make it this way. No, you did it all wrong. So, but at the same time, you've been spending a whole week here every day, getting nowhere. Come to my class next semester, advanced sculpture. So to share the story, we had this kind of similar experience.
Yeah.
Kind of echoed with what happened to me. And I said, I want to help this lady or, maker of this piece. And then, here it comes, she was in the program in the honor studio, selected by 300 major. We select 7 to give them private studio. So they have more concentrated time, 24 hours access to studio and make their own work. And then bring it to her current body of work are so much related to what she did way back in honors, because one thing I respect about artists in general, students, is originality, meaning signature work. When I walk in here upstairs, before I even knew that was a Bilan, because of that, here the color was not there, but the creepiness of the eyes coming around, it just scares you. But at the same time, you gotta know what's going on, what's going on. At that time, you were not playing with title at that point. We will talk about that in a minute.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the word kind of speaking to me, kind of draw your attention. That is what the power of art, and also your signature keep going on. We'll talk about that in a minute. But then, let's go to, your work, go back to the first piece if you want to. Oh, yeah, another piece. Let's go talk about the Franconia before you get
Yeah.
Okay, look at this, this is right after graduation.
Yeah. Right in 2021.
I don't know whether I introduced you. There's a Franconia Sculpture Park in Minnesota where they take young artists and also older artists, more established artists, to go there and do work within a certain period of time. And they were hired as young interns who work about 8 to 1 o'clock to do the what they call sculpture park needs, like just installing, help others to install work, move work, or taking care of the yard, mow the lawn, whatever, right?
Yeah, and one of the beautiful parts of the art world is you can't really make art without friends. So a grad student there, Heidi
Yeah.
Zenishek, she actually also had an exhibition here, I'm sure, at some
Yes,
point.
she did in that room there.
In the corner room over there. She recommended that I, go to this sculpture park. She's like, yeah, it's a great place to, as an emerging artist to, get started, get experience with doing public art. So she, recommended it to me, and turns out Foon was also there, and other, other people that I, come to know as I, I'm going throughout my career. I was like, whoa, you were also here. Cool. So so this is the piece I
that is
made.
the piece that she did,
Yeah.
and then
It's
we
like
can
10
see
feet
that
tall.
the material was already establishing the choice of material, the color, and all that. So really powerful outdoor piece. But this is the place where they allow young artists to experiment, to do work that nobody might give them the space in a gallery space. But at the same time, let you to have a piece in your portfolio. Then you can apply to go to some other places for residency and so forth.
Yeah, it's a great head start.
Now let's look to the work that you are here now. Okay?
Yeah.
Let's start with the
go back. Okay.
Yeah, go to the
Gotcha.
piece that with your hair. Right.
This one? Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So my question for you here is your signature.
Yeah.
When I was sharing with my students, I say I'm going to have a talk with my former student. Oh yeah, remember Milan? You say, well, that's the person who used hair, right? So that again, that signature, you keep showing up, and here again, this is to me the piece is about that that organic growth. It's just getting from one molecule to become more, and then you don't know where it ends because you install all throughout the space, right? So that to me raised a question about your identity, which you speak a lot in your honor thesis, that your hair should be one of the topic, and that represent you in many of your work, especially this one. You mentioned in your honor thesis about how you grew up worried about the hair you had.
Yeah.
You were more happy with your mom's hair,
Yes.
which is straight, and then some of the ladies who saw in TV that are straight and then can come down in the shoulder.
Yeah.
But you were not uncomfortable with the hair you wore at that time.
I'm
So
just
share with your experience how that was you struggling with the hair.
Yeah, absolutely. So just for context, I grew up in the Philippines. So, the beauty standards are very different there. What you want to look like is light skin, long, dark hair. So of course, being half Black, I am not to that beauty standard. So it made a huge impression on who I am, especially as a little girl. I was there from 3 to 10 years old, so very formative years. So my relationship with my hair has been tumultuous, but ever growing, of course. Now I love it. Obviously, it's like it's something that I take a lot of pride in taking care of. And I actually collect my hair because it's free art material. Duh. I grow it myself. It's organic. Yeah. So this is kind of like a huge joke, and buhol means knot, like a knot in your hair. So that's kind of like my little joke for myself and my sisters. When they came to see this show, they were like, that's really funny. Because, we share, similar experiences, with our struggles and our identity, being from, the Philippines and, coming over here. So it's pieces of buhol is spread throughout the gallery. And I'm kind of like echoing what my own life and my own experiences with my hair. It's something that I will have forever. At the same time, it's also everywhere in my house, little corners here and there in the shower drain, and love scooping that up every time I get done with it. So it's kind of a play on that, and the pins are meant to echo how we used to do our hair when we were little girls. We would have these hair ties that had like those, those balls at the end, and they would just snap and, hit you in the skull. And it's so great. So it's just memories of that, pieced together to make this particular work.
Yeah. Now you also mentioned when you come back to the United States, right?
Yeah.
After Philippines,
Mhm.
or teenagers time,
Yeah.
and then you came back because you were submerged with more diverse, in this area, very diverse kind of culture. So you feel a lot more comfortable.
Yeah.
With the hair you wore.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
At the time, so you feel a lot better now after those struggles.
Yeah,
Now, you feel a
absolutely.
lot more proud of your
Yeah,
identity.
I know.
With this hairstyle than being
Exactly.
uncomfortable with it.
Exactly.
So I think the work being more powerful because you feel comfortable and
Yeah.
then let it express and get out your emotions.
Yeah, it's
And
a
then
relationship.
The work start to share that kind of emotion feeling to me, especially you're proud of it rather than being I'm comfortable with the hair curl and all that black thing. So I think that this is a really great piece that you can expand your scale. And also I think one day when you are given a bigger scale, I think I can imagine
Oh, yeah.
the amount of what they call growth
Ever-changing.
or invasive power of your work. So once you get the opportunity of a space for solo, this is what I call the opportunity to take the next step. So in other words, the sky's the limit. There will be more space for you.
Yeah.
Okay, you wanted to go to another piece that we can talk
The
about?
next one?
Yeah.
Oops. All right. Yeah, so this one's Shy Mold. So this is a newer sort of piece. Okay. So if you grew up poor, you would often see just black mold growing, throughout your house. It's like, whether it's like here in the Philippines, it's just like, again, pulling again from my personal experiences from what I've seen personally. So this is kind of like a fun little homage to this visual thing that I've been around throughout my life. So and oftentimes you'll, and throughout the exhibition, you'll see little blurbs that I've prepared for each piece. Because a lot of these works kind of like also talk about stuff that I don't want to talk about. So I made little histories and stories to them to breathe life into the work, so that it is no longer my own, but something that just exists with us. I want people to pull their own narratives within the work. And I think by removing or like by hiding some of my own narratives, I'm able to open that up to other people to, connect with the work in that way.
One of the things that I was fascinated, which I'm not good at titling my work, but your title is very unique because you have three levels, right?
Yeah.
The Latin work and then the English, version. It's just the wonder why I had to look up so many dictionaries. English already second language, but that is like a third level. What is that? So I had to look up so many things to find out what you were saying, what you were trying to say.
Yeah.
But you said you kind of create these narratives.
Yeah.
What is your background in terms of writing to create this kind of text? Because I don't think we teach that in our school so much about writing, about the work at this point. We are studio artists, we studio professor. We don't. I personally did not spend much time teaching about writing or your thing. How did it come about?
That's a great question. I don't have any background in writing, to be honest. I'm sorry. I don't have any background in writing. It's mostly a thing that I have been doing for myself. I like writing just like small little poems because I enjoy writing, but I don't like the commitment to it. I prefer to like jump from project to project to project. So with writing these miniature poems, I'm able to express something, that needs to be expressed within me, but not too much. I'm not sure what that says about me, but just like little pieces here and there. So I thought I could also bring this practice within my own sculpture practice in this way to, serve a dual purpose to kind of fill that writing void within me, but also, mix in my own hidden and personal narratives within the work that is meaningful to me, but might not, carry that same meaning to the viewer,
Right.
which I love. So
For example, like this one living in the rectangle.
Yeah.
I would quite figure
Yeah.
out how they
They
go
live in the
about.
rectangle.
Because the more organic things are,
Yeah.
living in an organic way, not dealing with geometry at all. So
Yeah.
So you came up with that particular rectangular shape. yourself.
Yeah.
Anybody in the audience have any question about her label? Because anybody? Okay.
Good.
Because the label kind some of them are getting more confused. Some of them are getting but the other one, let's go to another one and we can talk about the work.
All right, Socket Colony.
This is one of my favorites. And I also want to point out one of these pieces, I think this one, was starting in UMC, at College Park when she was a student in our program. This is the small portion she started. And also catch my eye, look like a bunch of years in, slides. But of course, they are not representational work.
Yeah.
Some of the work that kind of grew from you. It's called Socket Colony.
Socket Colony. So this is a piece that I started during the pandemic. So as Foon mentioned earlier, I was part of the honors program. Oh my God, the honors program at the University of Maryland. And with that, we are awarded with studios. But since this was literally at the start of the pandemic, the school shut down, and us as an honors crew, we kind of like advocated, like, let us in the building. We need the space. And they did, but only 2 of us took advantage of this opportunity. So I had plenty of space just to make stuff. And this is one of the pieces that I made during that time. So Socket Colony, this is also a memory-based piece. So in the Philippines with my siblings, we would run around and chase one another as kids do, and we would flip our eyelids over. And it's scary, it's freaky. Like, this is the stuff that I was surrounded with, which is influent. Like, you can see it in my work. I was terrified as a child, as it goes. It develops personality. So that's kind of what this comes from. So socket as an eye socket, and colony like a mushroom colony. So that's kind of what I smashed, in my brain. I love making just little nicknames for my pieces too, just like funny little names for it. So, socket colony is what it is. The process with this is I kind of like got like, do you know caulk, like that same stuff you line your bathroom with? I am obsessed with that material. So I dyed it pink, got a bunch of old light bulbs, because again, we use what we can, we use what's available. Dipped it in there and then peeled it off, lined it with twine to make this work. It's very repetitive and meditative, and I just love doing stuff like that.
So the pinkish stuff is the caulking?
Yeah. It's just dyed different shades of pink, and multiple layers to kind of.
Do you dyed it with pigments? Or?
Yeah, pigments or paint. At the time, I did only have pigments, right. And I also did not realize. Well, I used a different silicone caulk. It wasn't acrylic based, right. So it was I couldn't really manipulate it with water.
Right.
It was a whole journey to figure this out.
Right. So all these are artificial hair?
Yeah. It's twine that I dyed black.
So is any of the pieces that you actually use your own hair?
Yeah, none of the pieces in the show uses my own hair. I have used my own hair before, but just not
in this particular.
Yeah, I don't have enough, unfortunately. Right. Yeah, it's so much hair.
To shower.
Yeah, I know. I'm pretty sure I brought more supplies in coming in here. I was like, yeah, this is fresh stuff. Good stuff for for making.
Yeah. Yeah, you are one of the many artists I know that use material quite interestingly and try to transform them from one or repurpose is one word. They were caulking were not used for these purposes at all, as you might know. So
Yeah.
let's go to the next one that
Next.
that we can see. This is the piece I would talk about. This is the piece that really look like a body part. I mean, look like the intent, right? The part of the body, the intestine, all that, and then you using stockings, and to fill it with the what else? Synthetic fibers, right?
Synthetic fiber. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit more about the journey of this piece, because a little bit not so black in a way, but more body look like, and then you want to also make somewhere in your previous statement say you want to talk about your body, using body to create emotion.
Yeah.
I'll let you elaborate a bit.
Yeah. So with this kind of reminds me of limbs. And particularly the limbs of women, because we tend to be higher in body fat. So you can't really see it that well within the photos, but you should go upstairs and check it out. It kind of reminded me of cellulite. The folds of it, and I love being cheeky with the placement of hair, and this sort of thing is kind of inspired by visions of varicose veins from the body of my grandmother, just like I'm just thinking about the different bodies of the women that I'm surrounded with throughout my life. So that's kind of the inspiration of these sort of combinations with one another, different shades of brown. And yeah, again, like stockings are something that I've always been around, as a woman, it's part of my wardrobe. So, I take stuff that I would normally get rid of and just play around with it. So that's kind of how this project started. And again, it's a modular piece. It won't always look like this. If I were to reinstall it with somewhere else,
you can pull some components and
they're all little individual components that I kind of clumped together, and they just remind me of a warm hug, which is why I called them soft hoard. It's a hoard of just like softness. That's how my brain works. It's like, yeah, that's what it is. Makes sense. And yeah.
Do you know an artist named Sanger Naguri?
I do not.
She uses female, woman stockings to put sand in there in the 80s. It's part of the feminist movement, using stockings, putting sand, stretching into the limit that it won't break. It's a metaphor for women, how being pushed, and then being to the limit at the same time, delicate but also strong. So it's about the message using stocking and sand to fill in. We're using fibers, but she's using actual sand. So the pool of that become like a like a oval shaped drink, and then hanging on the wall and then attached to the ground. So look her up. Sanger N-E-N-G-U-D-I. Okay.
Thank you for that.
So this word remind me of the use of that stocking, but she used it in a more political sense, talking about the woman being the identity about not equal pay for the equal amount of work at that time. It is now is not more equal, I believe, and power. And I think they say about 30 to 40% of women making more money than the man now. So it is quite different. All right, let's go on, because I worry about time. We want to cover all the work, right?
Absolutely. So this is the masses. This one's a little heavier in my head. Generational kind of stuff. I'm just gonna glaze over that. But yeah, so this again, bodily. I can't really say much, unfortunately, but yeah, the masses. Again, using a lot of the materials that I've used before.
The label of this exhibition did not tell the material.
Yeah.
Right? Only tell the story, right? So let me see if anybody know what that is. Anybody know what this material is made of? Maybe one or two of them, huh?
Is it spray foam?
That's what kind of spray foam?
Insulation.
Yeah. Insulation or the stuff they use for plumber use, right? So,
Yeah.
so we'll.
I love this stuff.
No, it's one of those
So
things we
nice.
teach in our school that, all materials are available now. In the old days, sculptures are limited to stone, plaster, wood, and steel and bronze, right? So the old days, and now when we teach in the studio process, everything is available, everything is allowed to use. So this is definitely industrial material sell at Home Depot for a plumber to use to expand, fill in the pipe spaces between them. So I think this is the material.
Yeah,
used.
yeah, it is.
It's
I
not cheap.
love it.
It's not cheap. But they come in a
It's-
can about what, $6-7. So
Yeah.
so
it's
it has
good
that
stuff.
kind of crazy organic look, but also gross looking in a way, right? So at the same time, one of my question is, what is the little pearl thing?
The little pearls things. So that I was inspired by teeth. Yeah, they're just little pearls that I've stuck on there. Because I love the contrast between this ugly, lumpy thing and
With something totally beautiful.
yeah, and something that's like beautiful. I think I'm drawn to those qualities throughout my work. As I think about it, something that is alluring, but at the same time repellent and disgusting. I just love that combination. I don't know why. Well, I'm gonna sit on it. I think that's like the common theme throughout my work is that it's very intuitive the way I make, and I have to sit with the work before I figure out like where is this coming from. It has to come from somewhere because
Right.
I think every artist, whatever they make, it says something about who they are as people. In a way, everyone makes a self-portrait. What are you interested in as a person? So it's with a lot of the work that I make, I have to sit around a while like, okay, let's dissect this. Sort of like therapy. But I don't want to again share any of my therapy notes.
Quick question that, most of your work are black,
Yeah.
but at the same time, they are natural material. They are, some of them you told me you put pigments on. Would you have considered using black on this one?
No.
No answer?
No, like,
Yeah.
no, I
No,
would,
no,
no,
you would,
like, I
yeah.
would
You
not.
would like to keep the natural color of that.
Yeah. Yes,
Not
I
that-
would stick
yeah.
with, well, I mean, I did dye, like,
Yeah,
this is also covered in the same, like, silicone
Right.
caulk,
right.
just like different shades of
Yeah.
brown. Again, more family stuff.
Right. So you
Um,
mentioned something about the shellfish. Is this one?
I'm sorry?
Is it about shellfish?
Yeah. So that's
you-
just part of the narrative that I'm making up. That is like
Nothing to do with the real
no,
experience.
no.
Okay.
No,
So
well,
that's what the
sort of,
narrative
sort
always
of.
drive me to think something else.
Yeah,
that you have a
yeah.
like experience having the
Yeah.
shellfish squeeze something to you.
Yeah. Well, I think my purpose behind that is to create works, or at least create beings that belong in the world that we're all living in. So human beings, we also have Latin names. We are Homo sapiens. So by creating these works with Latin names, I want them to feel as if they belong, that they were always here with us, to blur the line between art and what is real, what is living, something that doesn't exist versus something that is growing and living with you. I wanted the gallery space to feel not feel like a gallery space, maybe feel like a gallery space. Maybe it's a zoo, maybe it's a garden or a graveyard, something that is ambiguous. I don't want to define them. Oftentimes I would, like talk to Amanda and like I would talk to my sculptures and like say goodbye, children, whenever I leave the studio. Because they are kind of like my kids in a weird way, very weird way. So once they're out into the world, I don't want to define what they are, just like children. Once they are out into the world, I don't get to define what that child is. It gets to be its own thing. It gets to have its own life. So that's kind of what I wanted to do with the work. They are their own thing. They have their own lives. It no longer has much to do with me. That's
Like
why
giving birth to children.
exactly, I birthed them. I know, right? That's very offensive to mothers. I'm so sorry.
We do call our work our babies, it's so hard for me to let go of something.
Yeah. It's not as intense as birthing an actual person, but yes.
Okay, let's move on to the next one.
I think this is the last one of the series.
No, there's one more, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, this is
Plants.
more like an installation piece, that remind me right away. Anybody know there's an artist other name called Peter Cohn?
Peter Cohn.
Petahcoyne. You will like her work, I think. You also have some similarity in that she does a lot of work with installations hanging over the place, and which she's collected over the world, and also using found objects to feathers, velvet, wax, silk, flowers, artificial flowers, and pearl head pins. Okay, all that you will find a lot of parallel. And she is one thing in her interview. She say, "I collect material every day, everywhere." She just keep collecting and then assemble them to the Arlington studio, and then put them together in installation. So you will please take a look.
No, hoarding is 100% part of my practice.
You will see some similarity here. Doesn't mean your work right. Nobody would, your work so original, it will never be her. But at the same time, that remind me of that artist that you might like to look into. So here's the last piece. We don't have a lot more. We are closing to the conclusion here. The work you do, like you are installing something that want people to sit there.
Yeah.
You put a bench there.
Yes.
You want people to go underneath to kind of let this kind of hairy, Amanda said something. I don't want to say that word. That kind of look like something. They hang over you, crawling over the place. I'll let you speak a few words about that.
I think it's just really funny. To be honest. I mean, if a plant were to be made out of flesh, that's just what it's gonna look like. I'm just like, I just make things here. You know what I mean?
Right. And let you guys
that's just reality. Like a fruit is gonna look like a fruit.
Right.
It's
also tree like bear fruit.
Yeah. People have fruits. And that's what a people fruit looks like. Flesh plant, yeah.
So bring me another thing I want to talk about. Milan being, so interesting of using material, repurpose them. Her studio just looked like the one I saw in school. Studio looked the same. All this material everywhere, and it's just something about consistency of an artist. You are what you are. If you start correcting it, it won't last.
Yeah.
You try to clean up your studio, may not make one day.
Yeah.
So I think it comes through. I think the other thing I admire you are a sculptor, quote, and also without a car. I'm admiring it. I'm driving a truck, pouring materials, wood and all that stuff. And our work are totally different. And then you are so skillful in using material, without having to carry with a truck. And then just I admire that. So I tell my students, no excuse. You don't have a car, doesn't mean you cannot make sculptural work. And now, especially with Amazon online, everything shipped to your door.
Yeah.
So no more excuse that because Professor, I live in a dorm. I cannot get it. Well, you can get it by ordering,
Yeah, I mean, so it's either you have to know how to drive or you make friends. It's one or the other. You can't be a loner and be a sculptor.
Yeah.
And not know how to drive.
Most sculptor work we call working as a pack of wolf.
Yeah.
We work together, but we have individuality. We have originality. We are not interfering with your work, But when I need to move a piece, Milan, could you help?
Yeah, please.
And I need to get something I can't get. Fun, can you get me a 2x4? I would glad to that. Again, can you get me something else? We share that efforts. We share resources. I don't think painter work the same way because you can individually get your stuff without having to so much need from the others. So anything you want to add on to before I?
Yeah, not quite. But if we're gonna, we could.
I have
open
one
it
more
up to
thing I
the-
want to ask you.
Okay.
This is the last one. Okay. I'm going to quote one word that I read from your thesis.
Oh my God.
on the
Okay.
thesis. By utilizing the physicality of objects, I capture and replicate the passion, the excitement, the warmth, and the fear attached to the remnants of memory. My work warps the human body and combines it with natural elements to make anxiety-inducing, surreal forms, stirring up the visceral feelings hidden beneath the skin.
Yeah.
I wish for my work to be the point in which my inner self meets the world. That's just it.
Yeah.
So I wish that for my audience to feel something, F-E-E-L, when interacting with my work.
Yeah.
Do you feel you have achieved what you had 4 years
I
ago?
sure hope so. I sure hope so. That is what I'm still, in essence, I'm still trying to achieve. I'm still attracted to things that kind of make stuff happen in this area of the body. At least for me, this is where I feel my work a lot of the times. And I hope, that's I'm able to convey that within everyone else. So you could, tell me if I did that job. And if not, it's totally fine. Yeah.
So when I ask the audience, when you see her work, do you feel something? Or how do you feel about the work? This is time. Right, Amanda? This is time for them to have questions and
Yeah.
answers.
Since we're recording, yeah, if someone has a question, I'll pass the mic.
I definitely felt something.
Thank you.
And multiple times. And that changed what I felt once I read what you wrote. And it was personal. And kind of what I loved about it is that it does feel like you're addressing something about the beauty in these areas that we don't look, or these uncomfortable moments we have with ourselves. So for me, yes, I did feel that.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Question?
I have a question about a specific work,
Yeah.
the work in black behind the tree. Because I walk past it every day, and I don't know if you mentioned this because I missed the beginning of the talk. Is it meant to look like North and South America?
Oh my God. No. I just realized that right now. Who knows? Maybe I was trying to. Yeah, the Americas. No, I mean, this looked totally different when I was starting the installation process. I honestly had no idea what to do with it. It was this was the most stressful thing to install during my whole, yeah, it was a lot. But I don't know, I just landed on this. I just felt it out, and I guess, I just copied the entire planet, on yeah, I just totally, you know what? Yeah, I did it on purpose. Yeah. Yeah, no. Thank you for that.
How does it feel when you disassemble these beautiful compositions? If there's something impermanent about your sculptures versus your sculptures.
Yeah, right.
Ooh, that's an interesting question. I haven't. Well, I guess I'll talk to you in a month. Like it was pretty sad, honestly. It was like a fun funeral, you know. Yeah, totally. I mean, you know, I'm not gonna throw them away, but they will be put in a box somewhere in my studio. I'm kind of honestly like freaking out because there's like so much stuff out there, and like, you know, with sculpture again, it's like it's taking up space. I need to figure out where to put everything. That's a problem for future Milan, you know.
You have no problem.
Yeah, no,
it's
like
fun.
right now, I'm not even gonna think about it.
Yeah.
And a month from now, Milan is gonna. It's her problem, you know.
Hi, Milan. How are you? I hope this isn't going to be too personal, but it's general. It's so with the more bodily pieces, I get a feeling of maybe referencing shame, and sort of in the way that like maybe Brené Brown does in her book about, you know, sort of confronting shame as something that we all experience. Is there any element of that and that you're expressing or trying to exercise?
Oh my God, there's so much shame. There's so much shame. Yeah, definitely. That's a really huge point of the work. I think, you know, as human beings, as beings with bodies, especially living in the age of the internet where you're constantly being exposed to people all the time, and, you know, having this idealized, you know, version of what a body is supposed to look like, you know, that's stuff that's internalized. You know, even being aware of that, and, you know, like you can tell yourself like, I should not be ashamed. It's still something, especially as a woman, it's something that is constantly clawing in, you know, inside of, you know, my brain, and I'm sure, you know, a lot of other people's brains. So I think it is an innate part of the work. Yeah. Thank you for that.
Hi.
Hi.
You were talking about how when you make your work, you want your viewer to kind of feel it here.
Mhm.
Are there any artworks or other like creative experiences that other people have made that have made you feel like that or that inspire you?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I love a lot of artwork from, you know, from different sorts of artists, but there is a group of artists like in my brain that specifically tickles that part of my body. And I usually call those my favorites because it's just something about feeling it, like a physical sensation in my body, like just does something to my sculptor heart. Yeah, I like Louis Bourgeois, obviously, and then we have Eva Hesse.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm forgetting her name. Berlind. I don't know how to pronounce her last name. I could write it down for you. I know how to spell it, but I'm too embarrassed to pronounce it. But I know she's a Belgian artist, and she makes like these like horse sculptures that are just like so weird, and they're like folded into one another. And that's I have yet to see her work in person, but it's definitely in my list that I must see this person. I'm blanking right now on the other works that I love, but it's, yeah, those kinds of works are what I'm like extra points for them. Again, like lots of lovely work out there, but those are the kinds of works that I tend to be attracted to the most? Yeah, that's a great question.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. Oh.
Yeah, thank you very much for sharing. This last discussion prompts me to suggest that maybe you have a piece of artwork in your future called viscera
Visceral.
in the Latin, referring to that part of the body.
Yeah.
You didn't use that word in this presentation, but it's maybe reserved for you.
Yeah, yeah. I think I do use that word in my artist statement, just like as an overarching thing, not particularly in this exhibition, because in this one we're playing pretend. These are just beings. They're just living things. Maybe could be a dead thing. I don't know. But yeah, they're just guys. They're just hanging out, you know. Yeah, yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
First of all, congrats on the show.
Thank you, David.
The compositions are very painterly, and it seems like each organism or each piece is like its own visual language. I was wondering if you ever see all of these like accumulating into one glob of a piece using, the different textures, if you ever see that.
Ooh, that's fun. I've been actually playing with an idea in my head that sort of kind of touches on that, but it's still in my head, so we're gonna shelve that for now. I have thought about, like, I mean, I do have a tendency to reuse some materials and reimagine them in different ways, because I have a specific, bracket that I am particularly attracted to. But yeah, maybe in the future, since they are, very modular, they can be whatever I want them to be. I'll keep that in my back pocket. Heck yeah. Thank you. Wow.
Any other questions? Great. Well, thank you both so much for such a wonderful talk. And thank you all for being here. Milan's show is up through late May, so you have plenty of time to see it. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Thank you.